Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about a thought exercise that I recently tried with my therapist to help me work through two really big decisions that I had on my mind. And at the same time, I'm going to paint a few flowers in my Strathmore watercolor pad. For starters, how are you doing? The rainy weather here has dragged on quite a bit in Toronto, but things are starting to feel more hopeful. Everything is starting to look more green, the flowers are starting to bloom, and right now I can actually see that it's a gorgeous sunny day outside, so I'm gonna keep this short and sweet so that I can go spend some time outside. The province also opened up the booking system to allow those who are 18 plus and living in hotspots to book a vaccination appointment earlier this week. So I was able to book an appointment for me and Mike. In the meantime, there are pop-up clinics and pharmacies widening their eligibility criteria, making it more accessible for hopefully everyone who wants to get their vaccine to get it soon. Things are still a little chaotic because we don't actually have one centralized vaccination booking system, but at least we're heading in the right direction, and I'm starting to feel hope that I'll be able to see and hug my loved ones in person again soon. In the meantime, I've been trying to kickstart work on myself again with my therapist. And I specifically reference this as work because it really is a lot of work. I've spent years covering up old wounds rather than letting them heal properly. And as a result, I often end up finding myself falling back into old patterns and scenarios, and those eventually bring me pain. Something my therapist has been helping me with is making decisions confidently. We did this really simple decisional balance exercise recently that I found really helpful in giving me clarity. We started off with two big decisions that I had been struggling to weigh out in my mind. And for the sake of an example to illustrate this, let's just say that the decision I was trying to make was whether to stay in my current home versus moving to a new one. The first decision, obviously, was the status quo, not doing anything. And the second one is the change that I might be considering making. So we started out by listing pros and cons for not making a change. And again, this is just an example, though it feels similar to a decision we made late last year. But let's say the pros could be having really great neighbors, having rent control, proximity to the subway line for easier commuting, and a modern space that requires very little maintenance on our part. Let's say the cons could be that the space is too small because we're both working from home and it's a one-bedroom apartment. It's far away from my parents and my sister, and there's no outdoor space, something that feels more apparent when you're in lockdown. The second decision could be moving into a new home. The pros could be having an extra bedroom, more space, having an outdoor space like a patio, being closer to my parents and my sister. And the cons could be no rent control, might have to pay first and last month's rent, so it would be quite a big expense. Unknown costs could creep up because it's an older place. There may be more maintenance required, and we wouldn't get help with that. And it's far away from a subway line. Creating lists like this were really helpful for me to see some patterns and start to understand what my core values are as a person. For example, do I care more about being closer to work or closer to my family? Is having more space at home more important than living a smaller one that is more modern and doesn't require as much upkeep? And the final part of the activity was what I actually found to be the most useful. We went back to the things that I had listed and started to talk about whether each of those pros or cons were short or long term. For example, having rent control could be considered a long-term pro because if I stayed in that apartment, I would always know what I'd be paying every month, and that wouldn't change. But having great neighbors could be considered a short-term pro because people are constantly moving in and moving out of those apartments. Being able to separate these things into long and short-term allowed me to understand whether they were things that I could count on or whether they were short-term enough that even if they were considered a con, would they always stay a con? If you've ever tried an exercise like this, I'd love to know how you felt about it and whether you found it to be helpful. In my own exercise, things were definitely not as simple and clear as the apartment moving scenario. But doing this exercise really allowed me to see which cons I could see myself living with, even if they were short or medium term, if they were outweighed by the long-term pros of, say, making a change. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. That's all for me today. I'm going to go enjoy the sunshine, take care of yourself, and I'll see you again next week with a new video.